All right, it's another episode. That logo is cool. Every time I see that logo, and the merch is cool too. I've been checking out the merch. My son texted me the other day, goes, "You guys got merch?" I'm like, "Yeah, we got all kinds of cool merch." So check that out too. It's another episode of Splash Hit Territory. It's a mailbag day. We're going to answer your questions. Like I say, every time we do the mailbag, I miss being on KMBR. I will be on KMBR next week, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, I believe, in the night slot. So I am filling in there and I get to interact with you guys. But with our show, this is how I get to interact. And Susan and I get to interact with you guys. So Susan joins us again, my frequent contributor. She's the best, and she's here. But before we get to your guys' questions, news of the day, news of the week. Jung Hoo Lee at the airport. Susan wants to talk about that. So do I. So, Susan, you were on this. I checked it out on Twitter. You were on this immediately. Was this that big a deal with Jung Hoo Lee being detained at LAX?
Well, that's the thing. Anytime, especially now, when you hear detention and a foreign national, like alarm bells go off, especially media outlets. This was one, Jung Hoo Lee did not have his correct paperwork, which happens. It's happened to me. I showed up on a 3-city trip when I was covering the A's. And I think the last city was Toronto. And I went to Air Canada's counter to check in Boston, and they went, "Passport, please." And I went, "What?" Like I hadn't even thought about it until then. So obviously I missed that flight, and I learned it takes about 5 hours to get a new passport in Boston, which I was actually really, really lucky. But these things happen, man. He clearly must have had his passport because he got on the plane in Korea. So all we know is missing paperwork. I think that's enough for anybody to know. It happens. Scott Boris I chatted with, and he was like, "We're working on it. We think we'll get him out within an hour." It was probably less than an hour from when I talked to him. So I know there was some. I believe Nancy Pelosi's office helped out a little bit. The Giants certainly did. I'm not sure how necessary that was. I think just. I think this is something that happens pretty routinely, and it was pretty clear what happened, and they got the correct paperwork somehow, and there he is. So nothing really to see here. I think it just initially, especially when you hear politicians are getting involved to help get somebody released from detention, I think it sounds a lot more significant than what it was, which is just something that happens to lots of travelers every day.
I don't know anything about politics. Did they just jump in there for self-serving reasons, or was it like important for them to go in and help Jung Hoo?
No, I don't really know how that works, but, I think that it's not uncommon if somebody's held in detention for somebody in their area to get contacted to say like, "Hey, is there something you can do to kinda mostly more than anything, kinda speed this along?" And I've obviously Jung Hoo Lee is on his way to FanFest tomorrow in San Ramon. He's one of the people appearing with Logan Webb and some other people. So I kind of feel bad because people are going to ask him about it, and he's just going to be like, "Yeah, I was just an idiot and forgot whatever." It's really at this point to me not a story, but hey, yeah, I guess you got to ask, and maybe it was a weird or discomforting kind of experience for him. So
Well, it's weird times, and you take those things seriously. And you just don't know. I was
right.
gonna
It
send out
happens to Latin players often, right?
yeah.
They get turned back at the airport because they don't have the right visa or they're still waiting on their visa. Like it's in spring, we see this happen a lot with the Latin players. I'm not quite sure why it was. I mean, Jungkook's a little more high profile, I guess, than maybe your, you know, eighth possible option for the bullpen getting held up a little bit or something.
Hey, don't make fun of those people. That would have been
I
me.
I
Nobody
love
would have
them.
cared.
I'm
They would
just
have been
saying
like,
that
leave
the news
FP.
alert is probably a
If
little
it
bit
was
less.
me, it'd have been leave FP at the airport. We don't have to DFA him now. And I realized the severity of it and the seriousness of it, I guess. And I was going to
Yeah.
tweet free Jung Hoo Lee, but I thought, no, that's not a good tweet right now because this is a sensitive topic.
It is, it is.
And
When you were playing in Montreal, were there issues, with that? I mean, it was I think when you were playing, border crossings were especially Canada, US, I think
yeah,
it was a lot more. Could you just use a driver's license back then?
no, I think we had to have our passports. I think our traveling secretary took care of it. And I think I had an experience. I had a bad game, and we were leaving Montreal. And so we used to pre-clear customs in Montreal, and we'd have to go up in front of the guy, and they say, "Don't screw around with this ever." And the guy had a French accent, and he goes, "FP is not a name." I said, that's my name, bro. And I was 0 for 4, pissed off about the game still. We're right to the airport.
Oh
I
no.
said, that's my name. My name's FP. He goes, that is not a name. I said, it's Frank Paul Santangelo. I go, Jesus, or something like that. And it's all I said. And I had a little attitude, and he had a little attitude. There's a back and forth. And then I got on the plane, and our traveling secretary came. They almost pulled us all off the plane and checked all of our luggage because of whatever you said to him.
Dang.
And I was probably a smart ass. Like, I was accountable there. It wasn't like, but he just, the way he came across, all like rude. And you just have to, like, when you go through customs, you travel a lot. I travel a lot. It's just like, yes, sir. Thank you so much. But I had a bad day, and I had an attitude, and he had an attitude, and they almost like canceled our flight, the Expos flight, leaving Montreal, and pulled us all off the plane. He said he had to talk to him he goes, the reason we're late right now is I had to talk them all out of it for like 20 minutes. So yeah, you don't mess with those things.
International incident, FP Santangelo. Dang. Look, traveling is, the two of us together could probably do a whole show just on traveling. That's such a huge part of both of our jobs. But it's stressful and you make mistakes. I have twice, and look, I've been doing this for more than 30 years between covering the NBA and baseball and some other things, but I have twice gone to the wrong airport and missed flights. So flew into one, forgot that I was leaving from another, that kind of thing. So honestly, maybe I'm just dumber than the rest of the population.
Have you ever done the AM PM thing? I did that once in Seattle. I went up to watch the Niners NFC Championship. I forget what year it was, against the Seahawks. And I scheduled my flight home, and it was for 9 p.m. So I get up at 6:30. I'm at the airport, SeaTac, at like 7:30 for a 9 a.m. flight. And I get there, and I can't find my flight anywhere on the board. I'm like, did they cancel my flight? And then I went to the desk, and they're like, you're scheduled for 9 p.m. So I had to take the train back to Seattle, kill the whole day walking around Seattle. I couldn't change my flight because there were so many Niner fans going back from Seattle to San Francisco. And yeah, so yeah, you name it, I've done it.
Hey, it's better than having a 9 a.m. flight and showing up at 9 p.m.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is what I would do, apparently.
Just early.
In the comment section, everybody, I know I'm an idiot. You don't have to slam me more for it. I get it. Speaking of our viewers and listeners who we love, it's mailbag time. We've been talking about this for a while. We really enjoyed the first one we did. We got some really good questions. We won't be able to get through everything, but I really liked the assortment we got, and a lot of different people. So anytime we do this, please put in your questions, because you guys think about stuff that I think sometimes we wouldn't even talk about, right? It's a smart group who have a lot of insight and some interesting ways of looking at things. So FP, let's look at our first question here.
All right. It's neither mail or a bag, but we're going to call it mailbag. But thanks for the questions. How does the ownership group and front office sell to the fans that this team, as currently constructed, is going to compete this year? They finished 500 last year, have done very little to improve the team. Why should fans be excited? Susan, I'll let you go first.
Well, I think it's a very valid question. To date, the Giants have been one of the quieter teams the offseason. And we've mentioned this several shows. They have this good core, I believe. 5 guys signed long-term. That's one of the reasons they say they're not looking for a lot of long-term expensive deals. But the deals we've seen done recently, like Bellinger, who you guys know I was pushing Bellinger for basically the entire offseason, a lot of opt-outs. High AAV, but a lot of opt-outs, but they didn't do that. They could have done MI. There are a lot of, you look at these deals and go, well, they have the wherewithal. These aren't, everyone expected that Bellinger was looking for a 7-year deal, which I think he was, and it wound up being 5, but with some opt-outs early. So that's been interesting. I don't know, is it ownership's job, FP, to sell the public on this, or does Buster explain sort of his vision? Whose job is it to explain to fans what's going on and why they should be into the Giants this year in the way that maybe, last year the attendance was way up?
No, I understand that Giants fans are cranky right now, and I get why. But I think it's on the players to sell the fans that they're going to compete this year. So whatever team is there, I always get excited about baseball season, whether the Giants sign Aaron Judge or Correa or whoever, or didn't sign those guys. It doesn't bother me because I'm always excited about baseball in a new season. Does it look weird because the Dodgers have spent so much money? They're back-to-back World Series champions. It looks like they're unbeatable. Yeah, but like I think it's on the players to go out and compete and win some games and to get the fan base excited about baseball, with a new manager, with their style of play and winning some games. That'll get me excited more than who they sign in the offseason, because a lot of times you sign guys in the offseason, they don't pan out or they get hurt. I'm more about like the team that's there. Let's see what they can do. And if they go out and win, that's going to get me excited about baseball. We saw last year when they went on those winning streaks, all of a sudden the ballpark was packed. It had a different energy that it had the previous years. And then they had that stinkeroo homestand or that home record where they lost 15-16 or whatever it was. And then, attendance kind of suffered. But there was a time last year when we were all excited. So it's a 6-month season. It's a journey. It's a story to be told. I don't really get too excited in the off season. I get excited by the product on the field opening day. Baseball's been my life, Susan. I know a little bit about that and not a lot about anything else, but I still get ramped up and excited for opening day. When the guys run out to the line, the planes fly over the field. That's what gets me excited. And quite simply, I've always thought that like promotions are great and off-season signings are great, but winning puts butts in the seats. Winning, that's it. It's a bottom line. If you go out and win, people want to be a part of a winner. People want to be excited. And I think the way the organization has changed, that we can have set lineups now and that we have superstar players and we can actually go out and buy a jersey. And my line is always, I can drive 2 hours to see a Giants game and my favorite players are going to get pinch hit for in the fourth inning now, that you get to actually see them play a whole game, that this is a different time. And I know fans are frustrated, and trust me, I've been a Giants fan a lot longer than I've been a coach, a player, a broadcaster in the organization. I understand that. But that's just my take on it. I get excited about the team, the style of play they're going to play, hopefully, and winning baseball games.
I do think teams want to see that owners are invested, which obviously they are. I mean, look, this is a payroll right now that's over 200 million in terms of the luxury tax valuation. But when you don't do anything hugely significant over the course of one winter, and we've talked about this, you could argue Devers was their big deal for the year. If it had happened in the winter, that would be enormous, right? But I think teams do want to see that owners want to win and they want to see at least one or two significant things. I think a trade could even do that. Get people talking. I mean, this has really been a slow winter for talking. Like there are times that you and I are like, what are we going to talk about? I don't know. Thanks again for your question, guys.
I literally like over this show in the winter. I can't wait. We're going to do 3 shows a week where we can actually break down some games and some moves by the manager and some roster moves and the way guys are playing and who's going good and who's going not. But this is making chicken salad out of chicken S right now. And I'm ready for baseball to start. I'm ready to get down to Scottsdale and talk about baseball. So a great first question. I love it.
Yeah.
It got the show going. Good job.
Yeah. And you know what? You're right about winning. And I think winning early, like coming out of the gate hot, that gets butts in the seats right away and creates a little stir. So that would be a nice idea. Here's our second question, which this one's blunt. I'm sorry, FP. I'm going to put this one up super early for us to consider because I'm the one that went through all of these together. But blame me if yours isn't on here. Oh, that's not the right one.
That's not blunt. I barely know who Michael Kopech is. They'll probably sign him now. I said that, and that'll be a soundbite.
Here you go, FP. This is this one. This one's for you. It's pretty blunt.
If the Giants go 500 once again in 2026, which they probably will, that's a great attitude. We should move on. Should we move on from Buster Posey? No, come on. Buster, last time I checked, is not out there swinging the bat, which would be cool if he came out of retirement, by the way. I'm a fan of the person. I'm a fan of the moves he's made. I think he gets it. I think it's baseball again, and it's not computers and nerds like it was before. And that's just being honest. There was a lot of analytics involved in the way the Giants approached it before, and I like the baseball-y feel that we have. Does that translate overnight? I don't think. I think I think Buster Posey's making calculated, intelligent decisions based on what he experienced as a player. And I trust him. I do. I trust anybody, Susan, that's won 3 World Series. Like,
Fair.
if you're a big part of that, you know how to win. Like, has that translated yet? No. Was he frustrated last year? I heard he was, of course. The guy's a winner, and he knows the winning recipe. The one thing I will say, and I don't know if this is the case with the Giants, but when I was in Washington, D.C., I was pretty good friends with Mike Rizzo, and he was the president of baseball operations there. And he would have a lot of deals on the table, and he would have a lot of free agent moves that he wanted to make, but that he wasn't able to make because that ownership group, as everybody knows, is very cheap. So, like, I would hear the stories like, we had this trade for this guy, we had their best prospects, and I went to ownership and they said no. And then I had this guy signed. He wanted to come to Washington. And then I proposed the contract and they said no. So when you say that Buster's cheap or Farhan was cheap, everything has to go through ownership. Yeah. And I'm not saying that Greg is cheap, but like, they have to approve. They're the ones signing the checks, and I totally understand that. So if they feel like a deal is crazy and like, so that I don't know if that dynamic's in place with the Giants. I have no idea. I have no inside information, but I did in Washington, and I know that a lot of times your hands are tied.
Yeah, Buster is part of the ownership group, which people will point out. And he was clear during the winter meetings. He feels like when he has something he really wants to do, ownership backs him. They certainly did with Devers. They certainly did with Tony Vitello. I mean, these are, two that one a very expensive contract to take on. And the other one potentially putting them under the microscope all year. Now, you could say, is Buster potentially more under fire if things don't work out with Vitello, right? This is his guy. This was bold. This was big. Every GM is sort of under fire for any major decision they make. Really, any decision. I mean, the smallest of decisions. I mean, then our next one will be an example of that. Like, even this time of year when not much is happening, even the smallest transactions get examined. It's just part of the business. But I think Giants fans have a very good sense of Buster Posey. He is as competitive as anyone in pro sports, which is phenomenal. And he is also, I mean, I don't want to overstate it, but he's brilliant. I mean, especially when it comes to baseball and baseball evaluations, he's been very careful to surround himself with people he trusts and who are experienced. He knows what he doesn't know. And I've talked to people who have said, like, I ran into Buster somewhere and he quizzed me about this, that, and this because he wanted to know more. People from other teams, agents, you name it. So this is a guy, it's Buster Posey. This is a guy you keep, but certainly I think he's got a long, long leash. I do find it interesting that we have seen, and it was starting about even halfway through last year, some impatience with Giants fans from him. I thought Buster would just be golden for at least a year or two with the fan base. So that's something to keep an eye on. Most teams do not swing too far in the whole idea of we've got to keep the fan base happy, because you're never going to keep the fan base happy no matter what you do. I'm sure there are Dodger fans that are complaining about something or other right now.
No, they're not. They're not complaining about anything. Susan, on the Tony Vitello thing, like I'm the president of this fan club. Like, I think this is a great hire. I think he's going to grow into the role and become the Giants manager for a long, long time. And by the end of this whole thing, we will say that was a great hire. I do know that the game's probably going to move really fast for him at first, but he's so intelligent. He's so dynamic. The way things go south with the manager, in my experiences, it isn't necessarily wins and losses right out of the gate or even the first season. It's the clubhouse. You've been around it. Once you lose the locker room and then guys start to break off into groups, like, can you believe what he did? Can you believe this? That's hard to come back from, because players now, they can text the president of baseball operations. They can text owners. They talk to them. They meet together. And the players kind of, they listen to what the players think. So with Tony, I think it's going to be a learning experience, but I think he's going to learn really quickly. The game's going to move at Mach 10 compared to the college level. That if you ask me what his biggest adjustment is, it's not going to be grown men and they have families, they make $40 million a year. And he was with 18, 19-year-old and 20-year-olds that whatever he said was gospel. His biggest adjustment is going to be the speed of the game. It's going to be like pitch, ground ball to short, throw it to first, a run scores. Like where it was a little bit different in college. So his adjustment is going to be how fast this thing moves. Yeah. And it's really not going to move that fast in spring training out of the gate. Where he's going to see it is maybe like April, May, obviously June, the game's at full speed because everyone's at full strength and he'll have adapted by then. And he has guys around him to help him make decisions, but it's going to move fast for him. But I think it's a wonderful hire and I think he's going to be great.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like we've kind of gone over a lot of the Vitello ground since he was hired. What I do think is I think Buster gets a long leash. I think Vitello gets a long leash because it is an unusual situation. You're right. I don't know. He's going to have some bumps. He's acknowledged as much. Buster has acknowledged as much. It's not, nobody knows. This hasn't happened before, but he is surrounded. There are so many more coaches in the game than there used to be. He will have so many more coaches than he had at Tennessee. Loads of experience. The one thing we have all pointed out, and obviously, is that bullpen usage is so much different in the big leagues from the college ranks, clearly. But he is going to have an experienced bench coach. He's going to have an experienced pitching coach, assistant, bullpen coach. This is, I think this is not going to be like a huge stumbling block for him. So, but it's going to be interesting. Eyes will be on him closely all year for 100%.
When I managed the San Jose Giants, in front of 300 people, I think I've mentioned this on the podcast before, it moves so fast for me. I'm coaching third base. I'm thinking about who's going to get up in the bullpen. I'm thinking about who I'm going to pinch hit for. I'm giving signs. There's runners on second and third. I'm checking the outfield. I'm trying to remember the arm strengths of everybody, the score, the time of game. And that's A-ball in front of 300 fans in San Jose. And it moves so fast for me. I was overwhelmed. I thought I always wanted to be a big league manager. That's what I wanted to do when I retired. And it just, it was wild. So I can't imagine in front of 40,000 people on the corner of 3rd and King, when every move you make is scrutinized on social media, you're on TV every single day, how fast it's going to move for him. But I think he's going to adapt quickly.
Well, it's even faster now. Fans love to criticize bullpen decisions. Love it. It's so much hindsight, which always kind of, no matter who the manager is or what the situation, I'm like, well, yeah, it's easy for you to say this now because it didn't work out, but you can go through all the reasons a manager makes a move. But not only is it what you're saying, the game is so fast when you're making the decisions and things can spiral quickly, but the game is faster now than it was for a long time with the pitch clock and with a few other things. Bullpen usage is also a little more tricky with the 3-batter rule. Like there are reasons why sometimes when it seems like, oh, maybe he didn't get a guy up early enough, or why didn't he make this move sooner? Sometimes it's simply things that fans don't know about, but we kind of get tips on before the game. So-and-so has a thing and he's just down for a day, or he's pitched 3 games in a row. He's not available. That might be obvious to some fans, but not to everybody. And as much as anything, sometimes it's just things can spiral out of control so fast with a reliever who's having a rough day. Ryan Walker comes to mind. There were a few outings last year where it was just within a span of a few pitches, the game completely changed, and the fans immediately are like, why didn't they get someone else in there sooner? There wasn't time. You got to get somebody up, and you're not going to get somebody up at the start of the 9th when it's your closer out there. That's just not how things are done. It indicates you have no confidence whatsoever in your closer. I spoke to Ryan this week. He was at FanFest in San Jose. And so I kind of reached out to kind of follow up on some of the things that we had talked about with Vitello on Saturday. And I've got a story that's going to be up on the Chronicle, if it's not very soon, if it's not up now. He's very determined to win back his closer job, by the way. So that's a topic for a future. I've kind of rambled here. I'm so sorry. We need to get to more questions.
Well, I want to just address something real quick that was mentioned on KMBR in an interview with Tony yesterday. My name was mentioned, said that I hope the Giants are the most hated team in baseball. I did say that, but in the context of I hope they come out, they play hard, they're scrappy, they play the game the right way. They're not out there to make friends. If they have a little bit of swagger, so be it. And if teams don't like that, fine. And if they're the most hated team in baseball, that's fine. But I just didn't throw it out there like I hope the Giants are the most hated team in baseball. And that's the way it was presented in an interview to him yesterday. And there was some context to that.
We're
I just want to
both kind
clear
of
that up.
rambling at this point, but
Yeah.
yes, you're right. That was on our last pod, right?
Me
And
rambling?
I mentioned when you said that, I mentioned Buster has been clear. He's not on board with a like everybody hug before the game, like hang with your buds during batting practice on the other team. Yeah, he doesn't want to see any of that. I think if Buster had heard that, he would have been like, "Yeah, FP, we do want to be the most hated team." Like, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
You want to have your game face on long before the game starts. So,
Absolutely.
and neither of us have a problem with that. So
No.
I don't know if that was necessarily taken out of context, because I think it's a good thing.
All right, get to another
Let's go to
question.
another question, FP. This is a mailbag.
All right, my bad.
Here you go.
All right.
Talking about some of the minor moves that people wind up asking about, but the overall question here, I think, is a good one. You go for it.
I'd argue their defense has gotten worse in the outfield with the loss of 2 and the midseason trade of Yaz. How do they address that issue? Just training with new coaches, or do they have a bigger plan, hopefully? Talking about the outfield defense, we've talked about it a lot on the show. Susan, I'll let you take it.
Yeah, I think that's one of their biggest concerns. I know there's some sentiment out there they need another starter. Sure, they could use another starter. It was sentiment that they could use some more relievers. Absolutely. Second base. To me, the biggest need, and I've said this, I think you're all sick of it. I'm sure I'm sick of saying it. They need an extremely good defensive outfielder who can also contribute offensively. If it's Drew Gilbert, fantastic. I would love that. I think we'd all love that. We know Tony Vitello would love that. But to me, they need to go out and add somebody. I mentioned I've been banging the drum on Bellinger for a long time. The guy that's still left out there who's available is Harrison Bader. Otherwise, you make a trade. Luis Robert gets traded finally from the White Sox the other day. He would have been a nice fit, but obviously that didn't wind up being a Giants move. But I think this is there with that outfield at Oracle. And with the idea that this is a team that will win with pitching and defense. And I believe that's the case. I think this could be a very good team if they go with that. But you can't have the worst outfield defense in the majors. I know Oracle skews the numbers. It 100% does. But that was not a good outfield defense. Even if you just look at the road splits, that was not an adequate outfield defense last year. So fair question. That I think they still need to go out and add somebody to nail down an excellent outfield defense. And if you could do that right now with Drew, but if you have to get an established big league hitter, in my mind. FP?
I like Jacob Young from the Nationals, and the Nationals are trading everybody right now. So Mackenzie Gore got traded yesterday. If you've ever watched Jacob Young play, for Giants fans that haven't, he really goes and gets him in center field. He might be one of the best defenders going right now. I do like Harrison Bader too. And maybe not as everyday guys, but like, you know, if you have a 3-run lead in the 7th inning, you put your best defense out there. And defensive replacements, platoon against lefties, guys that get 250, 350 at-bats as bench guys that'll add some energy to the lineup and add some defense. But yeah, I'm a big fan of Jacob Young. I think he can really go get him.
All right.
Well, you got another question? How are we doing on time?
Yeah, this is kind of an interesting one. I hadn't really given this one much thought, so I'm actually curious what you think. We got a nice little Tristan back. Like the whole bullpen is a question at this point, so I think this is an interesting little twist on the bullpen question.
Kirk and Kipe have said they believe Tristan Beck could be a starter, but he hasn't advocated for himself, leading to the Giants relegating him to the bullpen. Do you think there's an opportunity for him to become a starter? I absolutely do. Whether it's with the Giants or some other team, I think he's got starter stuff, starter mentality. He does have a bullpen mentality. I'm probably not really qualified to answer this question in an appropriate manner because he's one of my favorite players on the team. He's just a wonderful human being. We've talked about him a lot, probably closest to him of any of the players on the team. I just think he's a wonderful person. Yeah, he could be a starter. for a lot of teams. He could be a starter for the Giants. I don't think it's advocating for yourself. I think as a young player, you just take whatever role is given to you and you just put that hat on and say, I'm going to be the best at this on this day. And if that opportunity presents itself, then you go with it. But if you remember a few spring trainings ago, Susan, he was all the talk in camp. I mean, he looked the part. I had never seen him pitch before. I'm like, this guy's a stud. But yeah, he's been relegated. I don't like to use relegated to the bullpen because, as we know, that's probably just as important or even more important than starting pitching nowadays.
Yeah. I'm biased when it comes to Tristan too. He's fantastic. He's a Stanford guy. He's very smart. He's might be the Giants' best asset in terms of community relations. He is heavily involved in all their outreach. It's wonderful that at the San Jose Fan Fest last week. It's a joy to watch him interact with fans. I was watching him there was a photo station and people were lined up waiting to come in like sort of little groups at a time to get their photos taken with Tristan. And he was greeting them like they were all his long lost best friends. He was like, come give me a big hug. And oh my gosh, it was really, he's so phenomenal. So yeah, I think we'd all like to see him have a regular role, but he's also dealt with so many injuries, including that aneurysm that required surgery. And I think that has, like, I'm not sure what we know how they view him or what sort of role he might, because of that, because he's had some interruptions here.
So I think Susan disappeared for a second. She'll probably try to get herself back on here, and
There I
I'll
am.
vamp for a second. There she
There I
is.
am.
Susan got detained at customs for a second. Now she's back.
Too many buttons here, man. Yeah, let's finish with a fun one.
Let's do it.
This is one for all the, sort of like none of you are really haters, but semi-haters. Like we get the like you guys are homers stuff, right? Which I would argue. I'm a beat writer. I'm objective, and I know
I'm a
people
homer.
laugh.
I don't care. I don't
All
care what
right.
anybody thinks.
Okay, FP's a homer. So here's one for you,
Name me a
FP.
broadcaster that criticizes his team on a daily basis that keeps his job. I'll just leave it at that. Am I crazy for thinking this roster has potential to help them make the playoffs like they did in 2021? Go first, Susan.
Well, I think that if you look at this purely objectively, as a reporter would, you can go, they finished 2 games out last year. Devers wasn't there the whole season. He was still getting comfortable. Adames was dreadful for 2 months. He will be better. It was brand new to the team. It can sometimes take guys that sign big deals a while to really feel comfortable. And clearly that was the case with him. You could almost say that having them for full season, the way they normally play, and Chapman healthy, the offense was so hit miss, well, not as many hits as misses, really. It was not a reliable offense a lot of the year. I think this year it will be better. You can even throw Patrick Bailey in there if he continues doing what he did in the second half last year. They should score more runs. Still concerned about that outfield defense, and I think that could continue to be an issue. So I'm not going to bang that drum too much. And I'd like to see a little more starting pitching, sure. But if you missed her by 2 games and you improve your roster a little bit, or have guys who will improve from last year, yeah, maybe.
You've been around teams. Baseball is a funny sport. Like you just never know what's going to happen during a season. I know Giants fans are really pessimistic right now based on what's happened in the offseason or what hasn't happened in the offseason, but I'm the eternal optimist, and I am a homer, and I'm a Giant. So I always think they have a chance. So we'll see how this whole thing goes. You start to play well, you get that confidence going in the clubhouse, you start to play music and get the fogger going every single night. All of a sudden, great things are happening that you didn't expect to happen. That's the beauty of the game. And I think maybe the hope has been kind of drained a little bit based on a lot of teams spending a lot of money, and the Giants haven't made a lot of moves this offseason. But I don't know. I always go into a season thinking my team has a chance. Even when I was in Montreal and we didn't have great teams, you look around camp and you start to see guys, you're like, well, who knows? And we were picked to finish last one year, and we were eliminated from the wild card, I think, in 1996 on the last day of the season. So you just don't know what's going to happen.
I always try to remember, FP, that especially when you're going with either comments online on any social media forum, or callers in, say, to a radio show, these things run toward the negative, right? People don't go like, I am happy with everything. I think everything's great. Let me call in a show. Let me throw in a comment. It's people, who have either it tends to be a little more complainy. I mean, that's just the nature of sort of online comments and radio talk. So, and no offense to everybody, I think it shows how much fans care, and they should. But the beauty of a new baseball season, spring training, opening day, that is an optimistic time. And I feel like even if you've got a team that's finished at the bottom years in a row, that's you should still have optimism. This is the point where you still don't know. There could be some new guys that you really love or take a shine to. They could get hot. Who knows? I love this time of year because it's all sort of positive and fun. I don't know how they're going to do. Nobody knows. Like
not
that's
right now. Not right now in Giants land.
sports.
If you read the comments, I always found it funny that when I do the post game show on KMBR, if the Giants win, the phones are dead, and when they lose, I get tons of calls. That's just kind of how it's always been.
When things aren't going well.
All right. Well, that's a good mailbag. I like doing the mailbags. That was fun today. So if you're a Giants fan, you have a show here that has a reporter that's in the clubhouse every single day that travels with the team. You have a show here with a member of the broadcast team that actually played for the Giants. And I'll give you a little bit of insight, especially once the season starts. I'll start breaking stuff down. I'll tell you why things happen. So this just isn't a podcast or a show where we're going to have hot takes. So if you guys just tell your friends about it, we're trying to grow this big time. It's not about liking and subscribing. It's about a podcast that's not going to scream and yell at you, that's not going to have hot takes, that's just going to be sensible and try to explain to you why things are happening or give you different perspective based on, we're boots on the ground, man. We're there every single day. We're not just like flipping a switch in our living room or our basement with hot takes. Like this is good right now. It's going to get way better and it's going to be great during the season. So we'd love for you guys to check us out.
Yeah. See, you really are a positive presence. Yeah. And it's such a good, I don't know, walking advertisement for this show.
Well, anyways, sometimes I say really stupid things on here that when we shut this down,
that's really the reason to listen.
Why did I say that? When you're on like KMBR and you say something stupid, you come back from a commercial break and say, well, what I meant by that is, because you think about it for a second. And on here, it's just like clipped and put on the internet and it's forever. So you got to be careful, but we're having fun.
Well, don't be careful, FP. That's good. That's the good stuff.
Well, I'm not losing my job I'm not losing my job over there for this. I'll tell you that right now. That's never going to be the case. Susan, thanks so much for joining us today. That was fun. I love doing the mailbag. You're always so great at this, and it's always a pleasure to talk to you and see you.
Thanks, FP. Until next time.
Until next time. All right, it's time to sign off, folks. Swing hard in case you hit it on Splash Hit territory.